Okay.
Yeah, I was in the back.
Still on the driver's side, right? He has a tendency to lean right.
Mr. Best.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just love you so much, and we're so grateful to be able to come before you, Father God. We thank you for tonight. We thank you for this district. We pray that you be with us as we make decisions, be with the administration, be with the teachers, be with the students, Father. You just bless them and let them show love to one another, Father. Help us to always be seasoned with grace, Father. Let your light shine in all that we do. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, folks, for being here tonight. I appreciate your presence. This is the part of the meeting where we have open forum, so if anyone would like to address the board, we ask that you keep your comment to 5 minutes or less, and also understand that if it's not an agenda item, we cannot comment on it. Is there anyone who'd like to address the board? Seeing no one, we'll move on. So, you should have gotten a copy of last meeting's minutes. If there are no questions or corrections, we will approve those as written. Anybody? All right. Moving on. Consent agenda, Ms. Carroll.
The bills listed for your approval begin on page 7. About halfway down the page, you'll see Blue Star bus sales. We did have delivery of the 2 buses that we ordered at the end of the month, so they are ready to go.
In the fleet, already we inspected them and got an insurance card on them, and we are using them.
Page 8 has got Deep East Texas Self-Insurance Fund. We have moved from school comp to this for our workers' comp insurance for the next year, and that's the full payment for the year. And I moved on to page 10. A lot of these just have to do with the sports officials and meals. And on page 10 is our payroll for the month of September, $2.7 million. Towards the bottom of the page, Skyward is a software company. They provide our finance, our student, our attendance, our food service, substitute accounting. So it's just a whole mesh of all the software we use in the administration.
All the human resources, all of it, yeah, not just
Page 11 has got our unemployment insurance from TASB Risk Management for $11,000. Towards the bottom, Westico Fuels is listed twice. Those are different weeks, and they each contain 2 weeks of deliveries, so that's a combination of fuel charges for our vehicles.
I might make a comment on that. That, of course, is significantly more than we were spending at the same time last year. As you all know, the gas prices are going to impact us this year, and that's probably going to be an area in our budget that we're going to struggle with. But that falls under the transportation function, and we'll keep an eye on that as closely as we can. But we got to go.
And we do call for bids on that before we make that order. We call around. There's 2 right now, sometimes 3 will give us what they call a rail head bid on that. Delivery.
Page 12 has got some of our bus repairs, having radiator. I noticed that we did some compressors with those AC repairs, $12,000. clinic supply, that's our start of school costs, that's football and volleyball, helmets, shirts, shoes, shoulder pads, game jerseys, just a conglomeration of a lot of those start of school orders. BlackRock Construction's working on our water line, $39,000 there on the same page. We did do some parking lot repairs at the beginning of school. Bristow Services, $49,000. That's on 5 of our campuses there. Central Appraisal District, $71,000. That's a quarterly allocation fee. And the fourth one always comes up in September. Page 13, you'll see Labatt Food Service, $146,000. That's just what food costs are now, and we still hear from the food director that they're having trouble getting deliveries in on certain items, and they just have to get what they can get sometimes. And more people are eating as they're getting into this free meal thing, and more people are. We're serving more meals now.
And so, I mean, we kind of talked about this last month. Our reimbursement rate has gone up, and we have really made a positive impact, I think, in food service. Carol, you remember what that reimbursement was? Was it
It's $270,000 for the month of September that we're getting back from the Department of Education.
So that's, of course, we've never been anything close to that, but and that does indicate an increased number. I think our principals have indicated that they've continued to see increased meal participation.
I said double last week. I actually think or last year after a month, I think it's triple actually.
Triple?
I talked to Steve.
Yeah, he thought it was double. We talked earlier.
The majority of ours go through the free side. It's a big number.
That's a huge difference for us in that we were getting a certain amount when they paid, which we have generally undercharged, try to cover our expenses, but this is, the reimbursement rate's more than what we were charging for sure, so. Good news.
And we are training some personnel. We have a lot of new personnel in our kitchen staff. We've had quite a bit of turnover with COVID, had a little bit to do with that. So we've gone through a couple of new managers, and so when you're doubling the number of meals that you're serving, and you have somebody new that's trying that preparation, so the principals are really helping us out. We're trying to be patient, but just that prep and making sure you have enough food at every meal, and we're getting much better at it. So we're working hard to make sure we got it.
So at this rate, we'll probably end even. We won't have to move money around.
That's our hope.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it seems like
I would definitely think so. We're a little bit concerned just because of the increased costs. I mean, everything. Labatt's is one, you got Gandy's, that's another that's monthly. And
We're lucky we're in a co-op, Region 14, that helps us on the food prices, but just transportation of that, and all those kind of things, you've seen a little bit of everybody's seen, all the schools in Region 14 are in a co-op, but we still think we're moving in the right direction. We should.
should be positive.
Page 14 has got our electric bill, paid our electric $91,000.
that Renaissance, is that a one-time? Is that a one-year? Annual?
That's,
It's a lot of softwares that are
Yeah.
used for reading and math. Supplemental bills start on page 16. And that's where the construction from Kipler for phase 1 and phase 2 are listed.
So let me make a comment about that. At this point, after those bills are paid, we're still about $3.7 million to So, as you're thinking about, some of the things in regard to our budgeted amount, which was about 1.8 million, and fund balance, you kind of see where we, we're gonna be about 2 million in the fund balance this year, beyond what we are spending tonight. So, it's this plus the 3.7. So, we should end up really close to where we originally projected, but we were helped quite a bit with that by some of the increased revenues we've had. So.
I'll move on to the cash balance unless there's some questions about bills that I didn't cover. At the end of September, in all of our accounts, we had $11.9 million. And the revenue on page 19 shows, where we're just getting in. You will notice the line 5751, there's 67,000. That is from local a la carte items or things that were purchased in addition to the free meals that students pay for. And we're always heavily funded from the state. In September and October, 3.1 million, line 5812 was our first payment from the state. And they generally, the first 2 months, they'll send us a large chunk of our state funding.
Carol, before we get too far from, are you finished on that revenue? Let me go back to cash balance for just a second. On the workers' comp fund, you saw in the bills a $75,000 payment to Deep East. That Deep East is insurance versus a more of a co-op. When the workers' comp fund that we've had since 1993 until this August 31st was a co-op where it was designed for a lot of different reasons to have a percentage commitment, which they call a tail in the workers' comp world. In other words, if you have an injury last school year, they still may be receiving some kind of treatment today. Next year, some of these go for a long time. And so that workers' comp fund that you see there, that money is to stay there for the tail since 1993. Now you'd say, well, if we've had an issue that happened back then, it should be gone. But as part of this co-op picture, the co-op has certain responsibilities to every member in that co-op. So if, I'm trying to think of some, school district in East Texas had somebody that, whatever it was, had some major thing happen in 1993, we still may have a small portion of that in 2021, 2022. That's the dilemma behind this any kind of comp. If the insurance company takes that tail on, because somebody's going to be responsible for that, and so if the insurance company takes it on, they've got to increase their prices to the point where they can feel like they can cover that tail, or in a co-op, you've got to continue to fund it. We have left that money in there to continue to cover the tail. That tail should get smaller and smaller as we move farther and farther away from August 31st. But I wanted to be sure, we haven't really talked about that fund in that light, I don't believe, with y'all. So that will continue to draw down in small amounts. We actually had a bill that I'm going to talk to them about and how they bill us on it, and because that could eat up quite a bit of that. It's an account fee that I'm working on, so
We still have some active cases.
We definitely have.
I dealt with 3 today that are on the previous workers' comp.
So, anyway, the new one we've got is a 3-year guarantee on our rate, so we should see $75,000 for the next 2 years after this one, and no tail. So that's kind of a relief to get away from the tail.
Sorry, have we ever experienced a return or dividends? Like, have we had a good enough record? Ever?
So the other was designed, if you didn't use it, you didn't spend it. So for years, we would budget, say, $70,000 that we put in there, and we wouldn't spend it all. So in other words, whatever and that's really what that fund represents is, they ask you to put so much toward it, and we would put 70. We got a size several years, we were putting in 100,000. And so that shows over the years, the unspent funds. So, that's kind of what you're talking about. And that's the way they designed it. In 1993, when we went with them, workers' comp was out of sight. We were spending back then over $100,000, which a school that was, not quite half, but substantially less student-wise and employee-wise. And so that's when they went to that cost-sharing mentality. And so that's why when the administrators go to some workshops that we talk about risk and management and, trying not to put custodians in situations where they're cleaning stripping a floor with inappropriate equipment and things, because those are high accident situations where they fall on a wrist or something like that. So the mentality there was, the better our employees act, or the better habits they have, the less likely they are going to make a claim. So yes, that represents a lot of that over the years. But it's not I wouldn't say it's a true dividend. We just kept the savings.
Health costs have gone up too.
That's true.
That changes with time, as you know. So claims are claims.
Sorry about that, Carol.
That's fine, I moved over that, so the next page is the expense report. First month of the new year, things are pretty much in line. Line 34 does include the cost of those buses that I mentioned earlier. That's all I have this time.
The investment report, I think, is the last thing you've got here.
Right, and that's just a placeholder. We're not investing in it,
But we are required to give you the quarterly investment reports. If we're keeping those accounts open, she included that. That's all we got. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. Thanks.
We paid the bills.
All those in favor? All opposed? Passes unanimously. There's our fearless construction leader.
On the speed.
So as you know, we've been waiting for the exterior metal siding to come in since August, and they finally started trickling in last week. So they delivered the corrugated metal, but we're still waiting for the flat metal. So they deliver the flat metal in big coils, they rip it down the right size, and then they fold it into the accessory pieces for the paneling. So we got to get that delivered this week. They can start the fabrication, and most likely we'll start the installation next week. But we had the crews come out. As you know, it rained about 3 weeks ago. We got a good rain. So that gave us a chance to pinpoint all the roof leaks. And because the siding's not installed yet, we had some water coming through the walls. So our crews came out over the weekend and installed some water shield there, so we think we sealed that off. We still have a few leaks in the roof area, and our roofers are expected back tomorrow, so they should do the repairs for all that. We also installed all of the storefront doors on the outside. We're leaving the main entry doors out because that's where we're gonna make all of our main deliveries, and we don't want to damage the doors in the process. Outside, most of the dirt work's finished up. We still lack some sidewalks outside, and I would imagine we'll get real close to having those done by the end of this week, depending on the weather. It may taper off in the next week. But we met with the landscaping contractor, and he's expected to start work next week. So we'll start him on the east side, on the north side, and on the south side of the campus where the new playground area is going in. And then we'll just follow right behind the concrete contractor as he puts the sidewalks in and move on out to the front. So that about wraps it up for the outside. Interior is going real well. The ceramic tile contractor came on board about 2 weeks ago, knocked out all the ceramic tile in the kitchen. As a matter of fact, we started delivering the kitchen equipment today. The walk-in cooler arrived today, and that installation is complete for all the walls. We still have to put the condensing units and evaporating units installed. So anyway, that process has started. We also delivered millwork today. So the millwork for the administration area and the special ed area was delivered today. And then once they install that in about 2 weeks, then they'll move on to the standard classroom area. So things are falling in place for that. Our ceiling grid's going on as the tank and bed work completes. So about 50% of the ceiling grid is in already. As soon as the grid goes in, we start installing light fixtures, all of our AC diffusers. We've got crews up on top of the roof today installing the colonizers. We're gonna start firing up the units later on this week, so we start conditioning the space. We have our floor coverings coming in a couple of weeks. They'll need to hit the site, acclimate to the conditions on the site, and then we'll start the installation a few days after that. So we do have most of the materials are readily available. We have a few of the materials that will deliver a little bit late, but as we progress, we think we'll catch up to that delivery. So those things are shaping up well. Also, they delivered basketball goals today. The installation will start next week. The bleachers are ordered. They've been on site and they've confirmed all their field conditions, and they're scheduled to come in on the 15th of November. We're expecting about a week for their installation, and that should wrap us up towards December 1st. So things are looking good for us. We still have problems with COVID like everybody else. We had a new wave come in, reduced our manpower. They just supplemented manpower from other projects. And so we've been able to keep about 70 men on the side. So things are running pretty much according to plan. I don't see any major problems. As always, there'll be a big push at the end to get it all done. So things are looking good.
Still on time?
We're going to deliver on time.
All right. Awesome.
You know the answer to that.
I do. Somebody asked me just a day or two ago, and they're like, I don't think so. I said, he says every time it happens, so trust in Charlotte.
No, actually, this job's a little bit easier than in the past. First of all, we started earlier. As you know, we released the interiors earlier. That gave us a jump on some of the material deliveries. Of course, like everybody else, we have challenges every single day of the week. But I feel pretty good about where we're at right now. So I don't see any problem.
I was over there a couple of weeks ago. It's a beautiful building.
Yes, sir, it is. The architects do a fine job of design work. By now, we're getting used to the routine, so I think they're good first quality product.
Thank you for what you're doing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And it's, it's a y'all question. So I know like the stuff inside isn't in the gym, and I know you probably started ordering it, so where are we?
Yeah, we're on the interior finish, of course, the millwork and all that.
That is,
part.
right, but everything else.
So the list that I've got left, it's not actually been the furnishings and everything inside, it's the landscaping. Barely, not quite $100,000 more than what, I had originally put $100,000. When I went back and looked at the actual expenditures we had on the previous project, if you'll remember, we went over that again, and we'd only spent $77,000. So I adjusted my figures down at $77,000, but in reality now, as y'all know, landscape materials have just been hit harder than most things, I guess. I don't know, but I got 3 bids and 2 very much higher than what the third one. The third one was 165, and I told him, I said, I can't do 165. We need to work on that and continue to go down, and so we're working on that.
So what about everything else?
The furniture has been ordered. You know, the pots and pans and cafeteria things, I haven't seen any prices on that yet. We generally have our cafeteria ladies work on that with us, and we should be in about the same price. I will say, we've talked about playground area. You know, I ordered the playground. I got it when I got my last one. It's been on site for quite a while. We've got Cecil is coming out and he will assemble that, but he's also going to be putting in the pad for the basketball goals. Ricky's asked for a walking area inside the fenced area for the playground. That's going to be a little more on that because we haven't done that, but it's not been much. So I think we are going to be right on target with everything else, including the cabling. Phones are very inexpensive because we basically have our system in place. We just add, I don't know, a dozen phones. Tony, do you remember about what that is?
Well, I found a pretty good deal on eBay. I got it for like $20 a piece.
Oh, saving money. Good job. So we should be, I'll have
Next
more.
month, could you, like,
I
maybe?
can't give you an exact, sharpen the pencil on that.
What grades, remind me please?
We're gonna start 4th grade
Okay.
at Christmas, or after Christmas. And then next year, the 4th graders will stay, so we'll have 4th and 5th graders. And just as a reminder, we did move the 5th graders down there. That was my original intent, but that means as 4th graders, they would have moved to the junior high this year, then they moved back to the intermediate, and then they moved back to the junior high. So Mr. Goodenough gave me good direction there. I thought that was one of those aha moments, and I think that was the right decision.
So as 4th graders, that just think about pre-K over on the east side will still keep being.
We really, I'd like to stay with what we're doing right now. I hate to make too many changes all at once that we don't have to make. It really seems to be working pretty well over here. Miss Salmon's crew is really, they're experts at it. Now, granted, if we were to do that, we would move some of those experts, but the population on this campus is still fairly small, so it just, I think things are working good here for that
And
much.
there doesn't seem to be a problem, you know, busing the east side pre-K back over
kinda
to
got
their
it down.
parents. It's,
Yeah, somebody had asked me that, and I just, I don't see changing any other configuration until we kind of get pushed a little bit to do it. And, you know, if we said, you know, absolutely positively it was a better, you know, for everybody on the east side, but I haven't, and I'm not saying that we don't have a few transportation issues with the parents having to bring them over here, but I haven't voiced it to me, and I don't know, Lisa, if you've heard anybody complain about bringing their kids all the way.
because the kids can ride the bus over
Yeah.
here as well, picked up at the bus stop.
Every bus comes to this campus, so
Do they have to change buses?
not in the morning.
In the afternoon.
In the afternoon, we take them over there, we put them on their normal route bus, or if they're a car pickup, then we could set them out there.
Did you take them
In the
over
east-
there?
Yes, sir. In the east side, they got a good system, and a lot of personnel come out and do a pretty good job.
What's the plan for the empty, I say empty classrooms, are not going to be empty once they.
Right. In other words, so, of course, what that does is that gives us that room to grow, it buys us some time. You know, that's, right now, I guess, Crystal, we have about 10 classrooms that are fourth grade, 9 classrooms.
We have 9 classrooms.
And so,
There's
you know,
different areas that we are sharing classrooms, like for special ed, and there's gonna be some places that we can use those empty classrooms, and then there's gonna be possible some for growth, you know.
so I'll go back, there was some of that discussion when we split east and west. You know, well, we left West Junior High, you know, 45% empty, and that is true. When we built those, we moved 45% of our kids over. But as even Aaron, in the short time we've had East Junior High, he's continued to grow every year, and so it's going to take a while, but that will again fill. The same thing is going to happen over at the east side. I think we've got right now fourth graders projected. We've got about 180 fourth graders right now. When I was looking at the projections the other day, I think they predict those will go up about 11 kids, so there'll be what, 191, and then about the same size third grade class. That'll be fourth graders next year, so that'll be 380, and that wing has got 28 potential classrooms, but we're going to use 2 for the library, 1 for the music room, so it's 25. So you're looking at about 500 student capacity. So again, we'll grow into that. That kind of gives us a little breathing room to do some of the other things we need to consider as well. So.
You were going to mention a workshop.
Right. Thank you. As because we need to continue to keep our eye on the growth, the enrollment growth. Thank you for reminding me, Chris. We have got to at least look at what our next points of impact are with the growth. You know, we are currently, we'll talk about numbers more when we decide to meet, but you know, we are currently in pretty good shape once the East Intermediate is open, pretty well across the district, where we're beginning to feel pinches at the high school. And so that'll be some of the things we discussed, but I'll give you numbers of every campus and then some projections from our demographers as well. So,
What do you want to do this?
So we were looking at the 26th of October or the 28th. I also had given you November the 1st date, but Mr. Keenum said he can't make the first date, so I'd love to try to make it when everybody can be there. So if y'all had an opening either on the 26th or the 28th, if anybody has a problem with the day, that may be more. And we do meet from about noon, and then that's a pretty extended discussion usually. And I will not keep you past 5. Hopefully we'll give you some time back. And we use those hours for board credit training. So,
You want to just get a feel for what day we can do?
does anybody have a date that is bad for them? 26th, or yes, sir, or the 20th. That should be a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Me too. Either
26 better.
26 is better. Is that, Mike? You look like you got
Yeah,
calendar issues.
Tuesdays are usually bad, but that's okay. That's, I'm trying to see.
Why don't you let me know, and then I'll coordinate with Cameron.
I probably will be flexible, so if everyone is better on Thursday, I'll make it work.
28 is better.
That one might be, Tuesday may be okay for me, so.
I think Andy said 28 would be better as well.
I can do the 28th.
Cameron,
I'll work it out.
Are you, well, no, I can try one.
Yep.
28. Let's do for the 28th.
Noon o'clock?
Noon. And we'll give you a location and agenda. We'll work on the agenda.
All right, moving on. We are to conduct a public hearing to approve a district improvement plan. That's hard to say.
Yeah, yeah. But before we get too far into that, I might ask Mr. Hagler to give us a little background about our district improvement plan.
You have the author and the creator of our district improvement plan that we update annually for the last couple of decades. And when I took this position a couple of years ago, I was looking at it and I was trying to figure out, why do we keep updating this plan? Why do we start off with Mr. Patrick in this position? But after looking at it, discussing that with Mr. Wylie, we came to realization, what's great about this plan is all these administrators there, when they're new to their campus, they have to go back and look through this plan that's been, like I said, we've been working on for about 20 years, so they know inside and out everything that's going on. So that is the pro with that, and me and Mr. Wylie agreed we're going to continue doing the plan. How was that?
You're very congenial, Mr. Hagler.
School districts are required each year to create or update district improvement plans, and I do say update, this is a living document. It's a document we make change to throughout the year. My goal tonight is to give you a summary of this district improvement plan and hopefully get your approval when we were done. The same process took place last week when the district invited the council, and they gave us their stamp of approval. And the administrators did the exact same thing on the campus with their campus improvement plan. So we've gone through all the correct process for that before we bring it to the board tonight. I gave you some cheat sheets. The district improvement plan is a 71-page document. We got some reading material from Miller. For those y'all don't want to read a 71-page document, I gave you a couple of sheets. I condensed it down to 2 sheets. But on the actual document, I also provided you with an acronym sheet because there's a lot of acronyms within there, and give you an idea what those all mean. The first part of the district improvement plan consists of a comprehensive needs assessment that I go through each year and visit with the administrator when we make the appropriate changes. It has several different categories and demographics, which we've already made the appropriate changes. Student achievement's a big part of that. Of course, we haven't had accountability since 2019. We reported our scores on STAR and of course to you last year, but there's been no new updates on accountability. Another category in there is school culture, climate, and safety. We really emphasize the safety part in there. A lot of things dealing with staff, particularly in recruitment this last year, because I will brag on Mr. Bond and on Jackie Powell as well, putting together a virtual job fair last year, which, what was the number, about 100 applicants? Am I close on that ballpark?
A little over 100.
A little over 100, and we hired some top-notch teachers. So that is something that came out of last year's district improvement that we had a weakness that we need to come up with another time to recruit some teachers. Also in there, it's categories of curriculum and technology, community involvement. And under each one of those categories, we list our strengths and our weaknesses. And I'm really glad to tell you and let you know that we have a lot more strengths than we do weaknesses. But we do know we always have room for improvement. So we get together and we come up with a plan of action. We put those in activities in the new district improvement plan. The sheet I want you to look at first is this one here. The second part of the large document consists of our goals, which consist of objectives and activities to meet those goals. Goal number 1, all students will achieve their full educational potential. Has the most objectives. Objective number 1, students will perform at the 90% on STAR. I do need to let you know, historically, these goals that we have in the district improvement plan, we meet these goals each and every year. Last year, because of the 10 weeks of missing school the previous year, all last year with the COVID issues, we came up a little bit short. Once you total all of our math scores, we ended up at 89.8. We were that close to it. And then our reading language arts, 86.75. Science and social studies, we did meet the goal. So we certainly feel this year that we're going to be able to meet the goal of 90%. There's more activities under Objective 1 in your district improvement than any other because it encompasses all of our students. Objective 2, Title I students will perform at the 85% level on STAR. Those are our struggling readers. We have interventions. We have a great staff working with them. So we feel that with those struggles that we might lower theirs down to about 85%. We think that's a realistic goal for those students. Objective 3, gifted and talented students will perform at 90% level on the STAR. And remember, when we talked at board meetings last year, we're talking about the approaches level. That means pass fail is what that means. Gifted and talented students, of course, they have an advanced curriculum, so we feel that their goal can be higher, so we bump it up to 95%. Objective 4, at-risk students will perform at 85% on the STAR assessment. Once again, at-risk students, we have a lot of interventions, tutorials for those students. We think that 85% is a realistic goal for them.
I'm sorry, can I ask a really quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
I think we'll go about it really quickly. I know that I guess stopping in the 5th grade, we technically don't pull out GT kids anymore, or, you know, they're still accounted in this, right, starting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
They're
Advanced
senior
placement
year.
classes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So let me kind of fill that out a little bit though. We, in past years, that was when they moved from 8th grade to high school, there was a reassessment, reevaluation, is that a right way of saying that, Crystal?
They had to go through the testing process again
Yeah,
to be
to-
identified as GT.
So, however, this year, we are not doing that. That's also what I did. So correct me when I'm wrong, just help me.
We made that change last year, we had a couple of.
Yeah, and so prior to this year, that, what you said, I mean, the majority of our kids did not continue the program through high school. A lot of that had to do with what they called an advanced project that they had to complete. And that was kind of, I mean, our high school kids are very busy generally, and that became a burden to them, is my understanding. They were, you know, the few that would want to continue that, when they found that out, they would eventually say, I'm not interested in doing that advanced level project. So,
Are they still identified, I guess is my question, in these numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because in the advanced placement courses.
Okay.
So it has been a little shift in high school. I just want to be sure you weren't misled on.
No, yeah, I was just wondering if in these numbers, they're still being identified in our,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Can you answer your question?
Yeah.
Career and technology students will perform at the 90% level on STAR. Many of these students are on the minimum graduation plan, and so we dropped their goal just a little bit there. Special education students will perform at 85% level on STAR and ELC. Obviously, special ed students have individual education plans. We do a lot of intervention, a lot of modifications, so we do think that's a pretty good goal for them. I'm going to skip over 7 because it's kind of out of order in this, and I'll come back to it. 8, ESL students, English learners, will perform at the 85% level, also on the STAR and of course, and once again, because of intervention, we think that 85% is a realistic goal. Back up to objective 7, special activities will be presented throughout the school year, which will assist students in development and understanding and appreciation for fine arts and cultural heritage. The one thing I want to emphasize here is, and we're going to talk about more when we get to the new activities, we made a huge emphasis on fine arts at the 6th grade level this year. We created a fine arts wheel, and I'll talk about that in more detail. We do a great job in fine arts across the board through those grades as well. Objective 2, to encourage regular attendance of all students to better enhance the learning environment. We want to increase our ADA to the 97th percentile. Year in, year out, we make that. Unfortunately, with COVID last year, we were at 95.69. To be honest with you, with attendance being taken with all the at-home instruction last year, I'm not really sure if the numbers are accurate. This year, we're going back to our 97%, and we feel we'll be able to meet that. We motivate the secondary students, of course, with exemption from exams, so that helps out with attendance big time. Goal 3, to have no significant change in the annual student completion rate. I'm glad to inform you that we only had 6 dropouts last year, so we did meet the goal of having 99% or above in that category, so only had 6 dropouts last year. Parents and community personnel shall be full partners in the educational process of the district. We took a hickey on that last year, of course, because of COVID, because we couldn't have all the volunteers we do year in, year out. We're graduating this year and inviting more volunteers back on campus. Of course, when they had all the campus committee meetings and had those volunteers come on, we're opening up for parents to have lunch. Hoping to bring back the watchdogs, get that back in full force. Hope to get PTO membership up after a year after the at-home instruction last year. And I just think that's something we can improve on just because we get back to normalcy. Goal number 5, Wylie ISD will provide supportive, safe, and disciplined environment for its students so they may become self-assured, productive adults. I'll emphasize the word safe in that, y'all. I can't say enough about what Mr. Bessett does by safety for the students in our district. Also, we do a lot of character education, a lot of leadership education. We've implemented mentor care for at-risk students this year. So we do a lot to help our kids to be self-assured, productive adults. Our teachers and our administrators do a great job of meeting these goals, and I'm glad that we will do so again this year. Now, the next sheet I want you to look at is basically a cheat sheet. And these are the activities that we created this year, which you add to that fluid document with all great. 21 additions to the plan this year. You probably have 21 additions for a district our size, over 5,000 students. That doesn't sound like that much. But if you look at the work that goes into these, it takes days, if not weeks, possibly months to create a plan. And then it takes weeks, months, and even a full year to implement these plans. And a perfect example is the first one that we have not shared with the board this year. We had to create and implement an accelerated instruction plan required by House Bill 4545. Some of y'all may be aware of that. I know you, the board members that have children in schools know all about this. In the 87th legislative session, they made some new requirements. House Bill 4545, students no longer required to be retained for failed STAR attempts in grades 5 and 8. That was the SSI, Student Success Initiative. If you failed in those grade levels, you weren't promoted. They were waived. But in place of that, they created requirements and additional supports for accelerated instruction for all students, not just those students, but any student that fails any portion of the STAR or ELC has to have a minimum of 30 hours of accelerated instruction, remediation, tutorials, whatever you want to call it, for each one of those courses that fail. Also in grades 3, 5, and 8, if you fail in those grades, you have to have an accelerated learning committee that you put together. So I am going to brag on the administrators in this group. We got this news on June 6th, and I want you to think what's going on June 6th. All the teachers are gone, all the students are gone. The principals are taking their 2-week vacation sometime around there, and we get information to TEA that says we have to have an accelerated instruction plan ready to roll the first day of school. You should have seen the stress level that we had. And we jumped on it. We hit the ground running. We met separately, secondary group, we met the elementary group, and we got everybody together. And we started bouncing ideas off each other, and they started putting it together. And that's not an easy task. And I'm not just talking about Wylie ISD, all across the state. It was a difficult thing to try to figure out how to implement, create, and then implement 2 things that really stood out. And the first one was, you go back to the 3rd, 5th, and 8th grade where you had to have those committees, where you had to have an educational plan that the parents signed off on. You had to have that in the summer. Well, the teachers are gone. Those students have now been promoted to 4th, 6th, and 9th grade. So you're trying to put together a meeting with teachers, and you haven't done the full schedule. So you said, okay, you'll use the teachers that had previously. Well, they're on vacation. You've got to get all this put together right in the middle when your teachers get back in August when they're doing all the professional development. That was an obstacle. And the second one was the state said that you had to do the tutorials or the enrichment, or if you want to call it accelerated instruction, at a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 students per teacher. And we all just went, there's no way to do that. And like I said, I'm not just speaking for Wylie. Everybody in the state's doing it. And I showed you our STAR scores, we were almost at the 90%. Think about the schools that have a large study rate. But I credit this group here. We got through it and we started doing it. And then TEA, about a month later, tells us they recognize that it may take time for a local education agency to make the types of master scheduling and staffing changes to meet these requirements. We do not plan to strictly enforce compliance this year as long as the districts are making reasonable efforts to meet them. And I can assure you we're doing a lot more than that than just reasonable efforts. So, what we did is we met all those guidelines. We had all those committee meetings that gave us a little bit more time after the start of the school. Any principal want to speak on that?
I mean, it was a challenge, but we just got a great team, and we, like Mr. Hagler said, we worked together. I know at East Junior High we started on day 1, and we're rolling, and we have some kids that are doing great. We have some kids that have passed the 20-hour mark of their 30 required hours. We have some kids that are at about 8 or 9 hours, but we have some really great progress being made, and hopefully we'll see the fruits of that, you know, when it comes test time. You know, we don't know. You know, you do the work and then you hope that it works. But it was a challenge, and the letting us have the option of the 3-to-1 really saved us. We did have, on my campus, there are 4 students whose parents said, no, we still want the 3-to-1, and so they have that. They're in.
A parent could sign off.
Yeah.
And that you could have extra instruction at a higher ratio. And we made a plan for those parents that still wanted that 3-to-1 ratio. You just have to do it before school. And the good thing is, this really is a good plan to help students out. But next year we're going to have summer school. We can start at the start of summer and implement the 30 hours. It's built in the calendar. So
I just tell you, I think it's the most ridiculous and unreasonable thing I've ever heard of. But in light of that, somebody spoke it, and I think you were there at the school board, and they said, bottom line, you just need to do what's best for the kids. The end. And so I commend you all, because it is.
It looks different on each campus, but they're all doing a great job.
Yeah, I think that's the goal. That's, so I think it's great.
So that's one of the missions. So you can see how long it takes to implement something. 577 and 578 are both about Edgenuity, and Edgenuity is one of the online curriculum software packages that we use during summer school, and we're using it at the upper level, secondary levels, for accelerated instruction. We purchased it last year at a huge discount rate, and a lot of our teachers bought into it, and we thought that it was something that you could purchase both at the junior high and at the high school this year. We use it mostly for credit recovery. We use it for summer school. Even at Mr. Smith's campus, they also use it for students who are in ISS and DAP, where they can do instruction through the Edgenuity on the computers out there. 579, we restructured Reading Language Arts, which is a new acronym, which I highlighted in there because they change them all the time. And the reason we did that is for years and years, reading and writing were separated at Wylie ISD because there was a standalone test in 4th and 7th grade. We thought it was important that we separated the reading and the writing teacher, and we even did it at grade levels that weren't in 4th and 7th grade. Now the pendulum swung back, and there's no longer a standalone test. Now there's writing prompts at each grade level, so we moved it back to one teacher teaching English language arts, reading English language arts. 580 K through 3 teachers and administrators participate in Reading Academy. We talked to y'all in detail about Reading Academy last year. All of our principals in here at the lower grades are participating as well, and the teachers, and it's putting a lot on their plate. We kept emphasizing last year that we'd be proactive and we'd make sure those teachers would get time off to do that, and we're providing that. They partner up with somebody, a co-worker, to help get through it, and we created our whole calendar last year around the Reading Academy. So I think that the teachers will be successful because of that. But it's been a lot, hasn't it, ladies? It's a lot of work. How many hours do you think y'all put in already on Reading Academy? You don't want to say.
2 minutes.
I spent most of the day on it today.
I'm sorry, ladies.
You're welcome, Mr. Adler. You know, it's going to be good, but it's overkill. It's just one of those things that's overkill, and we're letting them know, hopefully with feedback, but it will be good in the long run.
Wow, that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
581 Blackboard mobile app used to make anonymous reports. We used to use Campus House, all of those. We changed what app we use. Mentor Scare program, which y'all approved at a board meeting last year, where we bring in volunteers from the community to just counsel and visit, hear out problems that at-risk kids are dealing with. I know it took them the first 6 weeks to, identify those volunteers, identify the kids, train the teachers, and I think they're up and rolling. I know I talked to the counselor at the high school a couple weeks ago, and they had 34 mentors that were going to campus this last week. Mr. Smith, you have anything to say about Mentor Scare?
Yeah, Mark Blakely's really, he's killing it. It's in full swing now. And so he is way above the target goals that were set for him in the beginning. And I've talked to a lot of the mentors, and they're very excited at the times they've met with the kid. It has some really good response as well. So far, it's really good.
So 34 mentors, I assume that's 34 kids.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
1 hour a week.
We've actually, I think, got more mentors than we've got kids, is what I understood. Yeah.
appreciate y'all.
They've got, their parents have to sign off for them to see that.
583, we added an additional part-time gifted talent coordinator. We hired Diana McMillan, who's a three-time rehire. She's taught us for a year, outstanding teacher in the GT department. She taught the GT kids, so she was a perfect applicant for that. Kim Cheek was just being spread away two things, so we felt that it needed to be at least a part-time position to help her out. iReady used a software program we use for Title I students. We've used iReady before. We've used Lexia. We've tried them both out. We went to the teacher, said which one's working best. Mr. Hills and I was a part of that discussion, but we found out even on the same campuses, they disagreed. So we went, hey, why do we have to use the same one? So we let the lower grades, who wanted to use iReady, we let them use that. We're still using Lexia at second grade level. So we let the teachers make those decisions. So we brought that back. 585, we talked about a little bit earlier, create a 6th grade elective will at the junior high campuses. We want to emphasize fine arts. Every 6th grade student is exposed to either choir or band as one of their electives. And then their other elective is art or theater. We've added digital citizenship as well. And I believe Mr. Goodman may have even have a 4th.
We have a 9-week course. We just call it advisory. They do some career exploration. They learn how to be better planners. The teacher spends 1 day a week just making sure they've got all their stuff done. They're checking grades. They're organizing their notebooks and their planners. So all the 6th graders are going to go through 9 weeks of that.
So we've got that in the digital class, and of course the rest of it's all the fine arts, which we think is very important. So we just want to expose it to everyone. 586, ST Math. That is a software program that's endorsed by the state of Texas. So we're using that for remediation and specifically for the accelerated instruction. It's free up to, I think it was grade 4. We had purchased it 6 through 8. We feel anything that the state endorses we need to utilize. Ed Puzzle and Vocabulary, the next two are software programs that we use just at the junior high. Ed Puzzle has interactive videos that aligns with Google Classroom, which a lot of junior high teachers utilized last year, so they asked to remove that subscription. We have it on both sides, east and west, and Vocabulary is a supplemental resource engaging lessons in every course subject. By request, the students and teachers that asked to put together a Spanish club at the high school. Mrs. Morales is heading that up. And we also had another request for Leadership Academy. Chick-fil-A sponsored that. The Chick-fil-A Leadership Academy has 18 future leaders that are enrolling in that. Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Blakely are heading those up. Anything about those two clubs or academies?
Just getting started off and doing well. Off a good start.
Last board meeting, we had the teacher for the Certified Nursing Assistant Program come visit us, and y'all know all about that program. We have 19 students enrolled in that. But the two that we haven't mentioned, we talked about it a couple years ago, we needed to add some more CTE courses. And boy, Randy Berry's doing an outstanding job. And we added, it was either 8 or 9 CTE courses last year and 3 this year. The Nursing Assistant Program we just mentioned, we also have a practical veterinary assistant program, and we've added an advanced culinary. Neither one of those classes have a whole lot of students enrolled, but they have prerequisites, so we think in the future that both of those will increase in numbers. We also saw a need to add a math course, so we added AP statistics. A lot of our students take Algebra 1 in the junior high, so they need to take a second math course. So once they get to high school, they get their junior and senior year, there's not a math course for them. So we decided we need to add one to AP statistics. And there's 13 students in that class this year. Pre-K textbook committee met last year. Every pre-K teacher was on the textbook committee. Actually, it's not a textbook at that level, it's just resources. And it was unanimous that they want to go with status, so they're very happy with the product that we purchased. And the last thing on there is LEAD is offered as an elective class at the 8th grade at both campuses. And we always talk about the PAL class at the high school level. This is based on the junior high PAL class. We're creating leaders at the junior high level. They're working in the community, they're peer leading, things such as that. I know that was a lot. Are there any questions?
And so when we have answered all the questions, that's public hearing at that point. Anybody has anything they'd like to say? We do need y'all to approve.
How many campus committees are there typically? How often do they meet?
There are all 7 campuses in the meet, and then 2 times.
2 times a year?
Sunday and
In the district, we
Yeah,
get
district,
between
4.
3 to 4.
Is that just a matter of parents just reaching out to the principals and saying, hey, I'm interested, or?
Generally, they give us a name, someone that's probably been involved that they know of with that. And I would say that occasionally somebody is gonna say that they have been interested. We've had some get on our district committee that way, to how.
there's guidelines that the business leaders in the community, community members, parents, faculty, auxiliary faculty, teachers, or some guidelines in the rest of
The teachers and paraprofessionals are nominated and then elected by their peers.
Well, I just would say I'm impressed with the objectives and implementation of these new criteria.
Just because all three are about the same.
I appreciate all y'all do, and that's why we're who we are. Y'all plan on being great.
Well, and I'll go back to something Mr. Hagler said, even though there are some things that we are mandated to do, which a lot of, that's basically gonna be a top-down type thing. Most of the things that are happening in this plan are, what I would say, bubble-up ideas coming from the campuses, and so it reflects our thoughts that the folks that are closest to the kids are the ones that need to be making most of those decisions. So we would be remiss if we didn't say that everything that happens with our kiddos is a direct relationship, or directly related to the impact these folks are at the campuses.
And I don't think I said this, it's 587 or 97 activities. Those are not all in there because it's a living document. Some of them have been taken out, but that's how many there has been over a period of time.
Thank you, Mr. Hackett.
Mr.
Appreciate it.
Good job.
This is a public hearing, so if anyone at this time would like to make a comment, the floor is open. Seeing no one, what would we like to do?
I move we approve the 2021-22 district improvement plan.
Second. A motion and a second, get that in written? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Principals reports.
We got the elementary principals.
I have Ms. Salmon listed first, so.
Good.
Well, I sure will.
Miss Salmon, I am keeping an eye on you over here.
I love that, Mr. Lyon.
I should have used those with Mr. Hagler, but he told me I couldn't, so.
Okay, all right, so, you'll see our enrollment at the top of the page. And, the early childhood, the EC is 16. We do have 4 more coming, and those are typically the 3-year-olds that start, in the early childhood special ed, area. You'll see our, calendar of events listed there. And we had a great start to the school year. We have just finished our kindergarten beginning of the year in-class testing and pre-K. They do the Circle Progress Monitoring, which is the CLI Engage. Comes from the Children's Learning Institute, but it's actually Circle Progress Monitoring. And they did that from September 27th through the 8th, and now they're preparing for conferences with parents regarding those results. On last Friday, our kindergarten went on a field trip to the zoo. At the end of the month, we're going to have a book character dress-up day so that the kids can wear costumes, but it's related to literacy and books. So that will be fun. It's fun every year. The last week of October is Redwood Ribbon Week in the entire nation, I suppose. And we did buy some stickers and some bookmarks. But basically, we just stress at our level healthy choices. So that's what we do there. At the bottom of
you'll see that again, we're having the traditional pre-K Thanksgiving feast. That's what we do every year. But instead of having it in the cafeteria, they have it in the classroom, and they eat raisins, popcorn, pumpkin pie, and have apple juice. So, and they dress up like pilgrims and Indians, so it's a lot of fun. For the district, our Backpacks for Kids program now serves 41 students, and that's from pre-K to 4th grade. And we are going to have a Veterans Day Wall of Honor. It's going to be displayed in our cafeteria. It is normally huge. We send out a form. The kids color it. If they have a relative or a family member in the armed forces, then they put their picture down there, their name, both, and then we put that in our cafeteria. Each month we have character counts, and each month a new pillar is taught. We started with trustworthiness, now we're on to respect. But what we do is whenever a student is caught exhibiting characteristics of that particular pillar, then we take their picture and we display it in the cafeteria, and I announce it over the speaker. So it's real exciting to those kids, and it kind of gets the other ones to thinking about, oh, how can I get caught, displaying some of that behavior. And then lastly, I have started T-test observations and walkthroughs, and the teachers were given a refresher on that. They're given a refresher every year. So any questions? Okay.
You have the best announcements, Ms. Salmon.
Yeah. Thank you. I try to be fun with them, with the lunch menu and things like that. Everyone, be sure and come and see our Veterans Wall of Honor. I think you'll really enjoy looking at it.
Happy anniversary to you.
Well, thank you.
Well, and her sidekick's back there, passed out with an overdose of sugar.
Mr. Besson, you have an anniversary to announce?
No. Mine's leaving tonight, so I have a vacation for this. It's going to be nice. But I do love you, honey. Because I said a little break. Yes. Okay, you can see there's our enrollment there at West Elementary, and we have got lots of events and programs that we're doing, which is so nice to finally get to do. We had our fundraiser, and we also did in class. We had our site-based meeting, and first grade's going to do a music program, and they're going to go to many farms. We are also doing the same thing with our veterans, and it's really a nice thing to honor them, to post all of their photos. We have our musical that the second grade's going to go to at the back, and then second grade will also participate in the UIL at West Junior High. And then they're going to go to watch a movie at Full Express, our little first grade, which they love. This is what makes school fun. It's just such a joy and fun to have the freedom to be together and go and do. So, yeah, this is what it's all about. Anyway, that's all I have.
Awesome. Good job. Thank you very much.
You're up. I'm the cleanup.
Just in case some of y'all don't know me, I'm Crystal Noble, and I'm an assistant principal at Wylie East Elementary. And I know you probably don't get to see my face as much, but Ms. McMillan asked me to fill in, so here I am. Our enrollment's at 934 students, and we have been doing our spirit days. This week is Pink Out, and like Ms. Smith said, we get to do the character dress-up day at the end of the month, which the kids really like, and it's fun for them. And we will have Red Ribbon Week and do some dress-up days at that time as well. And it's really exciting now because our kindergarten and first graders are going to get to go to the zoo, and our third graders are going to get to go to Safety City. And our second and fourth graders are going to have some music programs where they're going to record it for the parents to watch. Our second graders are going to go to the high school where they'll get to see the theater class do the the musical. And so they'll get to really see like those high school kids and how much fun theater is at that level and get to enjoy that. And the first graders get to go put on their PJs and go watch the Polar Express and enjoy the pack as well. And where they may not always get to go into the pack, and now we get to share those wonderful facilities with them. And we also got, I guess, I don't know if you say modded or whatever, junior achievement is coming back. So we're going to do some junior achievement on our campus. And we want to give a shout out to Cinnamon Thompson. She is our counselor on our campus, and she came to us from ISD, and she's doing a great job going into our classes and doing guidance lessons on our character counts. And so she's getting to spend a lot of time with our kiddos and doing guidance lessons. She had a new student party where the students that were new to Wylie got to come in and got themselves a Wylie Pride shirt. And got to see that they weren't the only ones that, moved, since we do have so many people that moved in, and especially with, our military families. They're coming from everywhere, and we want them to know that they're not the only ones that, are new. We are doing still the art with the grades, 1st through 4th grade, backpacks for kids. We are doing our teacher evaluations and getting those scheduled, and we just finished kindergarten 1st and 2nd grade M class, the beginning of year testing, so everything's just up and running.
Thank you very much.
You're busy over there.
Yes.
A lot of things going on.
Second.
Oh, we're teaching Mr. Bacon words like crisscross applesauce and use your walking feet.
That's important stuff.
Instead of
All right.
Use your words, that's another,
Use your
sometimes
words.
you gotta use your words, that's always good. Trying to help you out, need you to know what's wrong.
Take some notes, Mr. Bacon.
So thank you for this opportunity again tonight. I had just a few things. You can see our enrollment numbers. But our class sizes are very good. I want to say thank you, Mr. Lott, for allowing us to hire a 4th grade teacher at the end of school last year. We knew the numbers coming from 3rd to 4th, that we needed that, and it's helped us. But as mentioned earlier, Mr. Vaughn, I think Mr. Goodenough, Mr. Amonette interviewed several teachers early on, and we were able to get the cream of the crop. And they did a great job. I'm very impressed with the teachers that you guys helped us out with. I want to say thank you so much for that. That's been great. We can see enrichment. Just kind of a highlight there. We have 44 students that we serve for dyslexia, and you see that 9.3% of our population. That's, we've identified more students, and we've changed the way we've done that. You see with that high of a number, that's really, you put a GT class, you try to get all the GT kids maybe in one class if you can. Well, that's a lot of challenging situations. And so we spread the love this year. And every teacher has 4 to 8 dyslexic kiddos. And we do that so when our GT teacher, Mrs. Brown, serves them, she can serve small groups at a time to help teach them how to compensate for their language skills. She does an incredible job for us. And I think that's been a good program. Now, there's always pros and cons every time you make a change. And so we're having to teach some teachers some new skills and things. Some of our teachers that aren't used to working with these kiddos, but it's been a great, I think it's going to be good for our kiddos in the long run. If you look at number 2, I mentioned that we're doing well on our number of teachers per students, but we had some students that we knew one student coming from Miss Bessett's campus, and we had some students right before the school year started with some BIPs, Behavior Intervention Plan. And just to be honest, we've had some challenges. And we've hired some aides. We knew some aides we needed to hire. Mr. Light gave us the permission to hire some aides. We've had help from other campuses come a little bit. Hopefully things are getting a little bit better, but it has been a challenge. Nobody likes to get kicked or hit, and some of those things happen. And those aides that deal with that, they need our prayers every day. and I can't say thanks enough to those for our aides that get in there and help those kiddos. A COVID update. When I checked Friday before I left, we had 2 active cases. About a month ago, we had 8 to 10 staff members out. And not necessarily all COVID. Sometimes maybe the kiddo was sick, or we had a daycare shut down. So we had a new teacher into the district. She didn't have anywhere else for kiddos to go. She had to stay home, and her husband couldn't be there for their kiddos. So that was the challenge. Things are much better now, so we're looking up there. We mentioned Reading Academy earlier. We're learning a lot. There's a lot to do, but hopefully it'll be good for our kiddos. Our third graders went to Safety City in September. That's just always a great time, and I'm glad we're able to do that. We're able to have our parents. We had a lot of parents show up for that, and it was just a good time. We mentioned, other principals mentioned character counts. We're doing the same thing there. We had a new student party the other day on October 5th. You see 26 third graders, 41 fourth graders are people new to Wylie. I want to say a shout out to our counselor, Ms. Renee Coltrane. She did a great job with those kiddos, and just to welcome them. Great party. They received new T-shirts, and we did purchase those from Mrs. Ruff over at West Junior High in her group. Just a few other things. October 16th, PTO will have a fall festival back at the Doghouse from noon to 3. That's 4th grade and below, so that'll be fun. We mentioned Red Ribbon Week. On our campus, we have the high school palace come to see us, and that's always a great deal. We've had a couple of our teachers, some of our young teachers that were pals, and we get to talk about that. So I'm getting old, but it's very, very exciting to have our pals. We're able to schedule that again. We did it by video last year. It's much better live, so we appreciate Mr. Thaxton at the high school for that. And we have a UIL meet coming up December 7th at Wylie West Junior High. Any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Boone. All right, I think Mr. Hagler is up again. Bilingual and ESL education annual evaluation.
Shall I go to the background and history of this program?
If you feel like you're led.
I'd just like to give you an overview of our ESL program. It's titled Bilingual Education ESL. Let me explain why it has that title. TEA requires schools to provide instruction for English learners, and it's bilingual education if you have more than 20 students in one grade level that teach the same, or speak the same foreign language. You're required to teach them through bilingual education, which means you instruct them both English and their language. We don't meet that criteria, so we teach ESL, English as a second language, and we teach them English only. So that's the difference there. As you can see on that chart on that first page, gives you an idea how the ESL program, the model for that. In pre-K and first grade, we do content-based instruction. All the other grades, we do a pull-out, push-in, which is, once again, we're teaching English to the students. And actually, the only difference between those two is that our lower grades, we're self-contained, so it's the same teacher. So the difference is, at the upper grades, only the reading language arts teacher has to be certified, not all teachers, so that's the difference. The goal, obviously, is for English learners to attain full proficiency in English in order to participate equitably in school. That's always going to be the goal for these students. We have 92 teachers that are certified in ESL, and we're serving 108 English learners. I told you last year we were serving only 90, so it's been an increase of 18 students. So we're getting more and more teachers certified in ESL. That's just over 2% of our student population that are in the ESL program. So on the next page, what's the process? What does ESL look like in our district? We have to identify and assess all English language students. We use a home language survey at the beginning of each school year, get that information from the families. Any student that we identify, we immediately give a language proficiency test. That's an online test, and the LPAC, which is the Language Proficiency Assessment Committee, determines if the student qualifies for our ESL program or not. So if they get into the ESL program, we also have to ensure a meaningful communication with the parents who have limited English as well. And the way we do that is we provide interpreters if needed, translated materials if needed, and we always have a parent night at the beginning of the year so we can get with these parents and make sure we provide them with all the information they need for what would be a successful school year for their students. Providing language assistance to English learners. Once again, we've already said we're a push-in, pull-out at the secondary, content-based at the lower grades. Our teachers teach using English language and academic content. Our teachers use visual aids, gestures, vocabulary support, cooperative learning, learning stations, and simplified vocabulary. And with Google Classroom, we've started utilizing Google Translate, and that's probably one of the greatest resources that we have for our English learners. Staffing and supporting EL. Okay, I told you we had 108 students. Unfortunately, we have 2 students that are in a classroom right now that does not have a certified teacher. and we're getting those teachers certified immediately. We made a lot of progress on that. 2 years ago, we had 11 students at the beginning of the year that were in classes that we didn't have a certified teacher. 8 last year, and we've got it to 2. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but if you're a principal at the secondary level, trying to get students into an 8-period schedule with a teacher certified ESL, when the teacher retires or leaves last minute, you're hiring a new one, or you, all of a sudden your teacher that's certified ESL is teaching another subject or teaching only language arts half the time. It's a struggle, but we get those teachers certified immediately, and we get all the support we can for those students. I did have to apply for a waiver. I applied for it last week, so we let the state know that we're short too, and we have to have them start. They give you till the end of the school year, but we get immediately. Providing meaningful access to all extracurricular, all curricular and extracurricular programs. All EL students are placed in the general education classrooms with their peers. They have access to the same curriculum as their peers. EL students have an equal opportunity to participate in everything that all other students are participating in. On that last page, evaluating English learner students for special education and providing dual services. As Shani will tell you, you have some students that are the same, and you have an individual education plan for the SPED students. So you want to make sure you meet the needs of the student that are needing dual services. So you make sure somebody in that art committee is also an LPAC committee member, so they can help the students out. Meeting the needs of the students who opt out of the English language program. All English learners are eligible or entitled to the services, but sometimes a parent declines. And I know 3 that declined this year. So we want to make sure that we monitor them. So we give those students a TELPAS, Texas English Language Proficiency Assessment. And if they don't do well on that, we offer those services once again to a student struggling to try to get parents to get in the program. Monitoring and exiting EL students from the program. Wylie monitors the progress of all English language students to ensure they achieve English language proficiency and acquire content knowledge within a reasonable period. Wylie ISD annually administers that same test, TELPAS, to all English language students, so we know where all students are. Monitoring after reclassification. Wylie monitors the academic progress of former English language students for at least 2 years to ensure that students have not been prematurely exited and they are meaningfully participating in the district's education programs comparable to the peers that are not English learners. And I gave you this whole report on English learners. I'm talking to my consultant at Region 14. She says, hold on, they're changing the name again. So I'll give you a different. You know, if you see there, it says ESL, we say EL, and it's all on your acronym chart. And I'm going to add a new one because they're changing them and always keeping them on. Any questions about our ESL program for English learners?
Thank you very much, Mr. Hedges.
Thanks, sir.
Carol, tell us about our investment policy.
Well, every year we review our investment policy. It has not changed. The main points of the investment policy is to ensure safety of the principal, maintain liquidity, and maximize financial returns. As the investment officer for the district, I'm required to have training a certain number of hours every 2 years to make sure. There are a lot of approved investment instruments that we're not currently using, but we have available to us. That's our investment policy.
And again, as she mentioned, this is required that we review this each year. And, really right now it's been interesting because there aren't a lot of options out there.
Not a lot of
interest. There is not interest to be earned right now. So it's sad to say how much interest we are making on good sums of money, but it's just the environment we're in right now. So.
Safety and liquidity. Those are our priorities.
Yeah. Carol does do a great job of staying up to date with all that. So I appreciate that.
All right, COVID update.
So we got a report from the commissioner last week. He gave, if you look at this sheet that you have in your hand, that's the state of Texas. It has both enrollment numbers, our student numbers. You see that's that first graph on the left, the blue one, and you see how the numbers have declined. And then on the right side, that's staff numbers, and you see how that has declined as well. We have really mirrored that locally. You've also got in your handouts this dashboard was this morning. I can tell you that the number of students that are new cases have really dropped. Rob picked up a couple. He had none, and then he picked up a couple. You know, the same thing is true with their staff. They were down to 0, now they're 1.
Last week I reported today 13 new cases, 3 staff and 10 students. We were 34 the week before, so we've been on a steady decline. So that was a big drop last week. That's Sunday to Sunday of reportable cases, 3 staff and that's district-wide and 10 students. So we had a good week last week.
And again, as you see that mirrored, I think that's also mirrored in our community. You know, we don't have as much information about that. I follow that in the reporter news, but those cases have also continued to drop. And I think one of the things that we talked about is in our administrative staff meetings is, you know, we put some of our policies in place, like eating lunch with your kiddos. And we limited that at the first of the year for several reasons, but a lot of it's just so the kids get in a routine. But we also maintained it in place through the first 6 weeks because we were keeping an eye on those numbers. And when the numbers, the bottom dropped out of the numbers, it made sense as soon as we could to bring folks back to campus. We want parents to be with their kids. We want our kids to go to the things like the Safety City and the other opportunities that we have. We will continue to monitor that. Who knows where we're going to go? I don't think we're ever going to see that number go away. But again, as you look at the student numbers statewide, this doesn't show a long enough time period. These are on the Department of Health Services. You see over extended time, it's like a wave. It's up and down, and I think we'll continue to see that to a certain extent. But right now, it's good. Testing is really down. We are now into private vendors, so we've made our application MOUs with that, just like everything else. There's a little back order. It sounds really good on paper, but when you have 1,200 school districts and everybody's requesting testing, it gets to be a challenge, but we're working on it. So, we're in good shape now through December, so we'll see where that goes. But our numbers have come down, but we're still open for business. You know, if you have a sign or symptom, or you have close contact, you're an employee, and you've got to come to work, we're ready to test you. So, any questions y'all may have on COVID situation?
Appreciate you being so patient with us. I mean, I know I've asked you a ton of questions.
Oh, no, that's...
we did, my family just went through a little trend there, and y'all's staff has been absolutely amazing, from Miss March at the high school testing to your teachers being very communicative with us. And even when I was at the high school Friday, you could tell how much those kids are happier. They're a lot happier. You could tell. They even voiced it several times. So appreciate y'all. Y'all are doing for sure.
Thank you. That's all I ask.
Thank you. All right. Well, we're going to executive session, which means you don't have to go home until